Nityanandam guys! Welcome back to the Kundalini Yogini. It's Priscilla and I'm so excited to, share one of the most important things in my life, which is Hinduism and why I follow it, how I came to follow it. Now this is gonna be a two-part thing because I realized I should make one just about how I came to find Hinduism, how I discovered it, and how I've learned what I've learned, and then another one which is why I follow it. So I'm actually going to first start with why I follow Hinduism. So for those of you that don't know me and that are new to my channel, I was raised in Southern California as a Catholic, in a very Catholic family, and I eventually ended up at Hinduism, which I'll share in my second video this week. But I basically changed my entire life and belief system, of course, and there was a period of a few years where I was not any religion for a while, and I came across Hinduism, and I'll tell that story in the next video. But just to set the preface for this video, it's kind of hard to explain in our Western methodology, but Hinduism is not a religion. And I know it's hard to fit the framework into anything other than categorizing it as a religion in English, but it's actually more accurately called Sanatana Hindu Dharma, which you'll hear me refer to it as quite often in my channel. And Sanatana Hindu Dharma means the eternal path. It's actually a lifestyle of living enlightenment. It's a lifestyle of living in the here and now, how in the human body you can experience the ultimate and work towards that divine experience within your own self. And some gurus term it as self-realization, others as enlightenment, but ultimately that experience is what's being sought after, a direct experience regardless of what you connect to or what you believe, understanding that the ultimate can be experienced now and that it's possible for human beings to experience it. And the reason why, of course, I connected to Hinduism so strongly was because I had come to understand so many different values and beliefs along my seeking journey of knowledge, not just in spirituality, but in general. Like I'm a huge intellectual person, and I love learning, and after all this information I had digested, I had kind of settled with these conclusions, which I really felt to be truth inside of my being. Even when I was a small girl, there was a lot of things I felt as true, which was that I knew God couldn't be so far away from me. That didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand why it would be impossible for a human being to directly relate to God if God is like the ultimate love and our creator and all of these things, right? So I never understood that concept of separation, and that is why, one of the hugest reasons why I follow Sanatana Hindu Dharma today, and specifically I follow Shaivism. So I'll go into a little bit of that detail also, because the very curious, and I find amazing and fascinating and very progressive part of Hinduism is that there's not just one path. So that's also why it's a very hard religion to categorize and explain in schools in the West, because it is not one belief system and it's not one book. So we're very used to religions that follow one book. It's very simple, straightforward, black and white. The Quran, the New Testament, the Old Testament, the Bible, all these things, right? So it does not fit that framework. Hinduism, Sanatana Hindu Dharma does not fit that framework. There's millions of source texts, which are the Vedas and Agamas of Hinduism. And some of the most famous being the Upanishads, books like the Bhagavad Gita that were a little more recent but still thousands of years old, and different revelations by all of these enlightened beings, sages, masters, guru to disciple, and also incarnations. Divine incarnations, what we consider pure conscious energy in a human form. Means there is no ego and there's no personality. They're just a pure channel of the divine. Incarnations like this have existed on planet Earth since time immemorial, some of them being Krishna, the Buddha, and right now, my own guru, Paramahamsa Nithyananda, who you can see right here, and these incarnations have always existed to help lead humanity, guide humanity in a relevant way for the time we're living now. And that's another reason why I follow Hinduism, is that it's a living tradition, it's a living science. And what I find so impeccable, if you will, about Hinduism is that what I found in other religious traditions is a lot of the truth and the core principles get diluted because human beings have, quite frankly, really messed them up. And this is what I really didn't settle with me well about Catholicism when I was raised in it. And what I love about Sanatana Hindu Dharma is that there is many different enlightened beings, even currently right now, keeping the pure tradition alive so that we never lose the actual core and essence of it. We don't lose that pure science of connection to the divine and of finding ourselves, of realizing our true nature as conscious beings, as more than the body and the mind, but something much beyond. And you know, that leads me into another huge reason, probably actually for me, one of the, if not the most prominent reason why I follow Hinduism is I have never found a path, a lifestyle which values non-violence and cherishing of all life in the same way that Sanatana Hindu Dharma does. The number one principles which you learn that are the tenets of Hinduism, whether you follow Shaktism, where you worship the Divine Mother, whether you follow Vaishnavism, where you like to worship Vishnu, whether you're an atheist Hindu, yes, these do exist, whether you're a non-denominational Hindu, whatever it is, the beautiful thing is that what ties us all together is the principle of non-violence, of ahimsa. This is something which I truly feel is like my calling in life to spread this message, which is non-violence to all beings, that we are, like in the famous mantra, if any of y'all are familiar in yoga and meditation, or you've also studied a little bit of Hinduism, you might have heard the mantra Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, which is Sanskrit, basically kind of summarizing, I'm going to totally slaughter this, but that may all beings be cherished in their happiness and peace, and whatever decisions and actions I take be in the best space for all beings to experience that also. It's basically that all of my actions matter to every other being, and they should reflect that, and not just humans. And that's what I find is so beautiful about Sanatana Hindu Dharma, is that there's no hypocrisy. We don't just value human life, but all life, plant life, animal life, and the life of this planet. And it is not just a value, but the entire purpose of the entire lifestyle is to live that nonviolence, to practice it, and to make that type of impact on our world and our consciousness through our actions, through our real lifestyle, through not just preaching something, but living it. Sorry, I just had to add one really important thing about why I follow Hinduism, which is that Hinduism does not believe in one God. It is not monotheistic, and it is also not polytheistic. So many school books teach this wrong, by the way, in the West, including when I took a class on this. It is not monotheistic or polytheistic. It believes that God is not one, God is oneness. And that is like seriously the most beautiful concept to me there could be, because it is also the only spiritual tradition I've ever come across that truly accepts all belief systems and all forms of worship within it. So you can connect to the Divine Mother as God and worship her. You can connect to the Father and worship that energy in thousands of different forms. It could be Shiva, it could be Krishna, it could be Vishnu, it could be so many, literally thousands of gods and goddesses that exist within Hinduism. Aside from that, it doesn't have to be within Hinduism. You can practice any form of connection, whatever you connect to, that is valid. There is a principle called Ishta Devata, which is that we all have a form of the divine which we connect to, and nobody is allowed to abuse you for whatever you connect to. That is like a principle of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, is that you should never shame or deny what somebody connects to. Whether that is a form of the divine, or even formless. Some people connect to the formless God, which is like Paramashiva, that ultimate cosmic consciousness that does not have a face or a name or a form, but is like more maybe on a scientific level, understanding it as the universe, the cosmos. So whatever it is for you, you're allowed and given the space to follow and believe that within Hinduism. And one of the last reasons I'll touch on why I follow Sanatana Hindu Dharma is that some of the most powerful tools I have ever come across in my seeking to connect directly to my higher self, the divine, Shiva, Shakti, God, whatever you want to call that supreme conscious energy, that independent intelligence that runs the entire universe. The most powerful tools I've ever found to connect directly into that space and tangibly experience it, meaning I'm not just talking about these things because they sound nice, guys. I promise you I've experienced this, and that's why I'm so passionate about sharing it, because I know that it's possible for anyone to experience these amazing mystical experiences with themselves and with the divine. And Hinduism is what those tools come from. Yoga and meditation, being two of the most prominent, are directly from Sanatana Hindu Dharma, from the Vedic civilization which existed thousands of years ago, and are enlightenment sciences to, it's like a formula. It's like an entire formula that says if you do this, if you breathe this way, if you sit this way, if you chant this mantra, you can directly tap into your supreme self. Directly tap into it. And it is a science, means it's replicable. It's not just one person's experience. It's been time tested by thousands of beings, enlightened sages, avatars, and humans who have learned from their gurus. And that's why I find it to be such a amazing science, which is a never-ending source of knowledge. And that is probably my very last reason why I follow Hinduism, is that it's the only tradition I've ever found which I don't run out of answers. And I don't run out of questions. And that might sound a little funny, but basically, just in my personal experience, what I've found as a very intellectually minded person is that a lot of traditions I looked into, a lot of different religions and cultures I looked into, I got to a point where it was like, okay, what's next? And there was no next. There was no next thing for me to learn or next thing for me to be allowed to question. And in Sanatana Hindu Dharma, I have never once, ever, not gotten an answer or 1,000 answers to a question I've asked that makes complete sense and has a logic, science behind it, not just a faith or belief system. And that the most beautiful thing is the knowledge that's there is so huge. Guys, I can't even explain to you how huge it is, but I swear if you just research, one really great resource is Kauai Hindu Monastery, because they have amazing translations of a lot of old Sanskrit texts from Sanatana Hindu Dharma. And if you just read a few lines, your mind is blown. Seriously, every few lines you have to sit with and meditate on, because it is so profound and so ahead of its time. I mean, the Vedas and Agamas talk about sciences and realities of the universe which just now we are discovering, or I should say rediscovering, and technologies which we don't even have right now. Flying vehicles, direct sciences to teleport yourself or your consciousness, astral projection, just crazy mind-blowing things which is recorded thousands of years ago, and yet it's been completely forgotten about and purposely hidden from us. So if you just research a little bit and start reading, I would highly recommend start reading some of the Upanishads. The Bhagavad Gita is a great place to start also, but if you just dive in and see, and try to get one where you can actually read the Sanskrit and then see the translation afterwards, and wow, it is just, I don't know, for me as a seeker, it is the most fulfilling path I have found to date, and I don't think I will find one that's more fulfilling, but I'm open, but I do feel that Sanatana Hindu Dharma, because it is not a religion, it is not labeling me or boxing me into anything, I can change my beliefs, I can change what I value and still be a practicing Hindu, because again, it's an enlightenment science, it's a lifestyle, it's not just a belief system. So it is such an, as my guru describes, it is a very open framework. It's this open system which allows us to question, which allows us to move and change and discover ourselves within it. There's no black and white thinking and no guilt or punishment or anything of the sort that we kind of cognize that relates to religion. It's really so outside of that framework. So, okay, those are just some reasons why I follow Hinduism, why I follow Sanatana Hindu Dharma, and why I call myself a practicing Hindu, and why you see me looking like a Hindu wearing my bindi almost always. And anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and it helped share a little bit into what Sanatana Hindu Dharma is and why, at least for me, why I found this is the ultimate for myself. Of course, I truly do believe at the end of the day that there are so many paths which exist out there for a reason. I do not ever judge or condemn anybody's path. I really respect whatever you are choosing to seek and believe and follow, and I feel that you should have a freedom for that. So the only thing I'm really against, I would say, is when people are conditioned to believe they don't have a freedom to seek and question. That just makes me sad, because I want everybody to discover truth for them, and I feel like it's such an important, if not the most important part of life. So I hope that you guys are all enjoying your journey of finding your answers and asking more questions continuously, and I hope this video was a little insightful onto why, as a Western American girl, I practice Hinduism and how I ended up here. So make sure to stay tuned for the next video. I'm going to be explaining actually how I came to find Hinduism and that story, which is going to be really personal and story which I love to share. So I'm excited to make the next video. Alright guys, thank you guys so much. Make sure to subscribe and comment your thoughts and any questions you might have for me. Nithyanandam guys, be blissful.